Welcome back to the Smugglers Den, episode 22. That's right, I'm still alive. My voice is back. It's me, Tiny Grimes. As always, I'd like to thank swdestiny.com for hosting the Smugglers Den. Go to their site, all kinds of cool stuff happening over there. You can go to brokenegggames.com, get all your tokens, put TG Games in at the end, maybe help out the show a little bit. And you can always go to Patreon, Tiny Grimes, where we got all kinds of stuff talking about. We're really sort of moving on to Spirit of Rebellion at this point. I'll try to get a Spirit of Rebellion tier list up soon, but that's a big asterisk. I don't even have any cards yet. I'm just winging around in the simulator a little bit, so hopefully May 4th I'll get some boxes and we'll really get rolling on a tier list. And if you want to contribute to a tier list, let me know. I can't cover everything right away, so go over there, let me know what your thoughts are. And this week I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Mike, the proprietor of swdestiny.com. How you doing, Mike?
Doing good. Thanks for having me back. I like how you said that.
Yeah,
proprietor.
nice.
Yes, it makes me sound very fancy.
Oh yeah. How's the website going, by the way? It looks like you made some changes and it's looking really good.
Yeah, it's going well. Kind of redesigned the site over the past few weeks, and I think it looks a lot better and kind of drives the focus towards the article content, which is I think what we do best anyway.
All right, very nice. I think you guys must get the biggest bump during spoiler season. I know I always go to your site for all the newest spoilers, and then spoiler season ends, and it's like, oh, that's too bad. I love spoilers.
I mean, spoilers are amazing, and yeah, we definitely got a nice little page view bump there, but it stayed pretty steady, which I've been pretty happy about.
Nice. All right, well let's move into what have you been doing this week? How much Destiny did you get in?
I got quite a bit of Destiny with one person. Played for about 6 hours yesterday.
Oh, that sounds fun. Were there little kids throwing money?
Actually, yeah, that's weird that you say that. There were definitely little kids throwing money.
That wasn't weird at all or annoying in any way.
I don't think I've ever experienced anything quite like it.
Yeah, we were at a local shop. I'm not going to name the shop because it went so poorly. Mike and I just met up to play a little bit. Mike's testing for Worlds, so we figured we'd get in like a hardcore Worlds training session, run some decks through the gauntlet. And man, there was a D&D session going on, and those guys, Mike, they were having more fun than my kids have. Like, I was so jealous of how much fun they were having.
They were super into it.
Yeah, it was yelling, screaming. It was crazy. And then, like we said, some little kid just walked by us and started hurling money at the plastic shelves, which sounded like it was so loud it sounded like gunshots or something.
It was good prep and good training to try and focus in that environment for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really important. Going to Worlds, I've talked about this before on the show. You need to prepare yourself for the worst, right? You need to prepare yourself for a situation where, this has happened to me at major tournaments where you're playing, all of a sudden 7 people just come up next to you and start talking about their games to each other really loud, and you're like, I'm playing like 2 inches from you, my actual game. If you could shut up, that would be great right now.
Yep.
It's kind of hard in a major tournament to be like, hold on, opponent, I need to tell these people to move over. Though I must admit, I have done it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, especially at Worlds where it's like the last game, if I win, I'm in the cut. There's like 12 people talking loudly inches from my face, and I had to be like, listen, guys, I know it sounds rude, but if you could move somewhere not here, that would be fantastic.
That would be great.
So, yeah. Did you play any tournaments this week?
Yeah. I played Monday night. Yeah, I played Phasma Bala Trooper. Yeah, it was a fun time. Good tournament. Yeah.
How'd you end up doing? Was it a game night kit?
Yeah, it was a game night kit. I went 3-0, and I think I grabbed the tokens, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have what, 10 tokens now?
Yeah.
All right. You're on your way, 10 man.
Tokens and a Django.
Whole set.
Yep.
Just use only ones. Like 20
I know,
ones.
Right? I'm kind of sad that the next kit is going to be the shields instead of the 3 damage.
Oh, yeah, that is weird.
What do I do?
Yeah. I say you really just play with ones. You have a stack of like
Yeah,
12
just a
ones
whole
on
new
Vader.
one.
You're like, hey man, it's not my fault you can't count my 12 ones accurately.
Nope. Yeah, I'm gonna bring 31s to Worlds.
Oh man. So Mike, how is your Worlds prep going? Do you feel like you're getting close to being ready for Worlds? Do you feel like you're still pretty far away? Do you feel like you're pretty close to being locked in on a deck? Where are you at right now?
I'm not sure if I'll ever feel like I'm, ready, but I'm feeling fairly good about it. Feeling like I have a decent handle on the deck that I'm going to play, and um, I've been playing a lot, so it's just kind of figuring out what it's going to be like when I get there.
Gotcha. And so do you feel like you're locked in on a deck, or are you still juggling two or three decks and trying to figure out what's better for what we see as the world's meta?
At this point, I definitely have a favorite, and unless something really weird happens, that's the one that I'm going to go with.
Okay. I think that's probably a good idea. I mean, we're not that far out at this point. Anyone out there who's going to Worlds, I think you need to pick a deck now. And then just start running it against the World's Gauntlet over and over and really, really honing in on those matchups and figuring out what are the cards you need to keep on mulligans and what are the cards you need to fear from your opponent. I really think now is the time to just really dial in.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so for me, I have to live vicariously through you and through my Patreon supporters that I'm coaching a little bit because I can't go to Worlds, Mike. I'm so sad.
I know, I'm sad too.
Oh well, stuff happens. The
Next
world's
year.
a terrible, cruel place. So, Mike, since I don't get to go to Worlds, I wanted to offer you something. I wanted to offer you my advice about going to Worlds because this is your first major event, right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So do you want some advice, Mike?
Sure.
Okay. I was kind of afraid you'd be like, no, shut up. That'd be great. Okay.
Anything you say.
So the first piece of advice is take care of your basic human needs. Like make sure those are met. Because if they're not met, then it becomes really difficult because you have these large looming distractions. So what I mean by that is get sleep the night before. Maybe you're not gonna be able to sleep the whole time you're there, but the night before the event you're playing in, that's not the night to go out and hang out all night and have a great time and have 12 beers. I've known people who have done this. It's tough. You got to be really good to be able to pull this off. Don't do it, Mike. I know you're good, but you're not that good. The other one is bring food and water with you. I mean, you may get in a spot where you just don't have time in between rounds. Let's say your rounds are going the whole time, and during the lunch break, you kind of get distracted. You're talking to people. Suddenly, you didn't get food or drink for 8 hours or something. It's really hard to concentrate at the end of that. So for me personally, I'm a bagel guy. I'll have like 3 bagels always in my bag. Everyone knows. Everyone makes fun of me. They're like, "Oh, hey, Tiny, how many bagels you got in that bag? More or less than 5." They'll see me eating them throughout the day, and people will be like, "Look, there's Tiny with his bagel." That's fine. That's what you got to do. You got to have some sort of sustenance. Whatever's good for you, bring it. And bring water. I used to bring Coca-Cola to events, and then what I'd do is I'd get thirsty, and I'd drink like 3 of them, right? And then by the end of the day, I'm like, I'm all hopped up on caffeine. So just bring some water, keep the system going, and go to the bathroom whenever you can, man. Don't get in the middle of a game and be like, oh no, now I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that all sounds like very good advice.
Yeah, so those are just the basics, right? Those are the very basics. Make sure human needs are met. That's actually the hardest part of events, are meeting your basic human needs, right? Because you're so worried about competing and meeting people and having fun that's really what slips by often and gets people in big trouble as the day wears on.
Yeah, that makes a lot.
All right. Another thing I like to tell people when they're going to, especially to Worlds for the first time, is yes, this is a competitive event, but use it to really get to know the community. I know for you, Mike, this isn't going to be hard. You have a website that you want to promote and talk to people about, so you will be doing this. But for other people out there, make sure you get to know people. There's probably going to be get-togethers at night. So, hang out with some people, figure out where the Destiny meetups are going to be. Go get to know the community. Don't be the guy who sits in the corner with his hoodie on, brooding about how he's going to smash everybody. it's just not that fun. Even if you do smash everybody, you don't really win anything anyway. And when you inevitably don't smash everybody because you're playing a dice game, then you wonder, why did I spend like $1,300 for this when all I got was a promo? Maybe it wasn't worth it. So make it worth it. Get to know the community. Have a good time.
Yeah, I think that's actually the thing that I'm most excited for.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I know for myself, also as a content creator, it kind of helps, but it's a lot of fun going to Worlds and talking to people. Remember, these are people who love the same thing as you. You have the biggest thing in common you could ever imagine. You all flew across the country or the world to play this game you all love. So, boom, right there. This could be your best friend. Who knows?
Absolutely.
All right. Another thing, you're going to get nervous. If you haven't been to Worlds before, if you haven't played in a major event, you're going to get nervous. Know that going in, and just be aware of that and try to fight through that, right? Whether that's whatever works for you, whether that's deep breathing exercises, but be aware of this and try to focus more than you normally do. I'm really funny when I go to these major events. What usually happens is I'm Mr. Friendly Guy in between rounds, trying to meet as many people as I can, talk to everyone. During the game, I get super serious. Like, I don't really talk to people at all, other than to say, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And the reason is not because I'm trying to psych out my opponent or be a jerk or something. It's just so that I can amp up my level of focus. Nothing is going to distract me. I'm not going to be distracted by inane conversation that I would normally have at, a local tournament. I'm talking to everyone. I miss a thing here or there, whatever. I don't really care. But when I'm at a major tournament, I'm dialed in as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mike, anything you're thinking about going to Worlds? Any advice that you might want to impart on people?
No. This will be my first foray into a big event like this. So I'm just trying to soak it all in and see what happens. After Worlds, I'm sure I'll have some pretty sage advice for people. But
that's fair. What are you looking forward to most about Worlds?
I'm definitely looking forward to meeting people and putting names to usernames, or faces to usernames, and kind of getting to hang out with people in person that I've been hanging out with online for the last few months. I think that's number one. I was I was planning on going to Worlds regardless of whether or not I got a ticket. I mean, obviously I was hoping that I would get a ticket, but it was kind of all about just the community and hanging out and meeting people for me anyway.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Especially if you have, the situation you're in.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to have a lot of fun. I think everyone out there will have a lot of fun if you are able to remember that's why you're there.
Mm-hmm.
I know it can be really hard. I've had a couple of Worlds where, it was really touch and go. Was I going to make the cut or not? And it can be really hard to have fun, especially if you don't make the cut when you're one off, right? It can be real hard to just be like, okay, that happened. I'm here to have fun, though. I'm going to have fun anyway. So try to remember that happens to you. Don't let it destroy your whole trip, okay? I know it's bad. I know you're going to be upset about it. Don't let it destroy you.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
Don't become a Sith Lord after this event. All right, Mike. I'm sure you noticed this, but in case you didn't, Set 3 was talked about this week at Star Wars Celebration. We got our first glimpse at a Set 3 card. That's pretty interesting because I just, started seeing Set 2 cards, and I don't have very many. So to see Set 3 already, if there's one thing you were worried about, like you were wondering, is this game really going to keep going? Mike, I think we got a pretty clear answer that, yeah, we're way ahead in development. Don't worry. We're all good here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm so excited for, to see what comes next for Set 3 after seeing the card that they revealed.
Yeah, this card is really interesting. In case you haven't seen it, I've got it up here on the screen. It's Sabine from Star Wars Rebels. I love Star Wars Rebels. How about you, Mike? Do you watch Star Wars Rebels?
Yeah, I love the show.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny because when I first saw previews for it, I thought, I will not like this show. It's too kid-oriented. But I'm going to watch it with my daughter anyway. If she likes it, we'll watch it. She loves it. I love it. It's a really good show. So,
Yeah.
So if you don't know who Sabine is, go start watching it. You'll enjoy it. But Sabine is pretty awesome. 11 health, 1520 though. So we're looking at Luke cost, right? So is she as good as Luke is like what I always ask when I see somebody who's 1520. But her dice are a 2 and 3 range, so it's the same as Luke basically. She has a 3 disrupt though for $1. I didn't even realize that. I assumed that was a 2. Is that a misprint, Mike?
That's a lot of disrupt.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, and then she has a shield, a resource, which is always important, and a blank. But her ability is really cool as well. Before you activate this character, you may play a weapon from your discard pile on her, decreasing its cost by 1 if it has the word thermal in its title. So, I mean, we've got thermal detonator already, though to be honest, I'm not super excited about looping that every turn. But I think it's safe to assume there's going to be a thermal card in the next set.
You would think so, right?
I mean, it'd be kind of absurd if it wasn't. I'd guess 1, maybe 2, but then it also means in future sets she has room only to get better if they decide to print more thermal weapons.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And I guess the real question for her is going to be her 1 or 2 thermal weapons in set 2 or set 3. What are they going to look like? Are they going to be like just a regular range damage weapon for 2 or something that you can discard to reroll, and then when you activate her, you get to stick it on her for only 1? Because that, and then it has sides that are like a holdout blaster or something. Only it's like the thermal holdout blaster. That feels like it would be really good. I would like to not have another really janky card like the thermal detonator, right? I'd love to have just like a regular weapon that has thermal on it.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. That'd be, a bit more of a solid direction for her card. Yeah, I mean, like bringing back thermal detonators seems cool, but you still have to pay 2 for them every turn if you put them on her.
2 for something that, as you get nearer to the late game, which hopefully she's surviving into since she's 1520, it's just doing 3 damage, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool, but you have to hit the special to do it.
Right.
One of the sides costs $1.
Yeah. So you're potentially paying 3 for 3 damage, which is not.
Yeah, right. That's not really where you want to be. And she's, when I look at her card, I don't think mill deck. Yes.
Right.
So it's really just that special side you're going for. So, like, looking at her and her cost with just the thermal detonator, I go, I think I still like Luke better. But if there's a really cool thermal card or 2 thermal cards, or Mike, what if there's like 4 thermal cards?
All the thermals.
Yeah, like you can build an all thermal weaponry.
Just all thermal upgrade. That's it.
Then Sabine becomes totally insane, right? Every single turn you're like, I'll activate, I'll put on some thermal card for cheap, and go to town. So I really feel like how good she ends up being is really based on those thermal cards. What do you think?
So looking at this, I'm not 100% sure that this is the way that works, but this is the way I'm reading it. Before you activate this character, you may play a weapon from your discard pile on her. If you ignore the decreasing its cost by 1, if it has the word thermal in its title, you can theoretically then play any weapon on her. Is that
You're right?
I mean, so then you get situations where you can play an ambush upgrade on her from your discard pile, and then resolve her dice after you have activated her.
Wow. Thanks, Mike. I apparently was blind and foolish because that's way cooler than what I was talking about.
It reminds me a lot of what people used to think about Poe, because when everyone first saw Poe, you only think about the vehicles, and it was only after people started playing Poe with Rey that people were like, oh wait, what? That's what it does?
Yeah, that could be really strong actually. Yeah, playing a holdout blaster or a vibro knife as you're activating, so you get to roll and then resolve right away, right? Am I seeing this right?
And that's what it looks like to me. There's no then in it, so it's like
that sounds amazing actually.
That makes it quite a bit better, I think.
That's way better than Luke. That's way better than Luke. Holy cow, Sabine just got amazing. All right.
I'm hoping that we get her like little dual wielding pistols too, because that would be awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully they have ambush.
Yep.
The more ambush cards now, the better.
Or
With
hopefully they
Convulsive
don't
Beam.
have ambush.
Man, imagine a deck that's like Rey Sabine.
Oh God.
It's just
No.
it's just insane. You're like, all right,
I don't want to imagine.
ambush here and then ambush there. That'll activate Sabine, putting the ambush on. Because if
You-
we get more ambush cards, Mike, we could eventually, like, maybe just with set 3, we could have a full ambush suite at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you thought Han Ray was bad.
Yeah, this could be totally nuts. Wow, I didn't even think about that. So yeah, so we're looking at Sabine as maybe earth-shattering good. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we also have the set is called Empire at War, and I'm excited. I'm excited, Mike.
I'm excited too. I'm excited too, especially if we see more Rebels characters because
Yeah,
they're awesome.
love Rebels characters. All right, so we're gonna move on then to the next question of the day, and that is basically Spirit of Rebellion is starting to come into focus a bit. We've seen a lot of people posting sort of videos of their early exploits with the set. I haven't really been impressed by any decks, including my own. The one set of decks that I've really been impressed by, though, are Rey decks. I mean, and so my question to you, Mike, is: are we looking at tier Rey? Like at the beginning of Awakenings, we had tier Jango, and as people really not only figured out how to play against him, but just hated on him, right? Just their whole deck is like, I'm playing dodges and deflects that only hit range because I hate Jango so much. That kind of dropped him out of his own tier. And then, of course, Leia Akbar came along that was like, hey, Jango, what's up? I'm your hard counter. So do you think that we're looking at least a preliminary tier Rey situation here?
I think it's fairly likely at the beginning. I mean, like one big reason of that is that almost everybody already has Rey, so it's like an easy card to slot into a deck, and there's more ambush upgrades to play on her, which obviously only helps her. The Vibro Knife on her is just insane. So I mean, yeah, I think it's fairly likely.
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting about Spirit of Rebellion is I feel like the rare upgrades there's some really strong ones, and the uncommons are really good, but the characters are a little bit dicey, and we'll see as we move forward how much we get to integrate them. And of course there's some really good ones, but like when I look at the tier Rey, I'm thinking of Rey Luke, Rey Poe, Rey Qui-Gon, and Rey Han as the tier Rey, which is just kind of hilarious. It's like, oh, so it's just Awakenings.
Yeah, right.
But it's basically taking those decks and making them way better and way faster. And I'm going to give you guys an example. I'm not going to claim somehow that this deck list I've posted here, this Luke Rey deck list, is amazing or even the best Luke Rey list. This is a very preliminary list, but I will say it's been wildly successful. And it's basically because it is crazy fast. And though it looks like an Awakenings deck because it has Luke Rey and Imperial Armory, it actually only has 8 Awakenings cards in the 30-card deck, which is a bit terrifying, Mike, that you can take what was already a decent archetype in Luke Rey and just completely change every card in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty excited about it. Like you said, the key cards are things like Vibro Knife, which lets you have more opportunities to cheat. But even worse than that, it's like you put that on Luke. I mean, sorry, you put that on Rey. You get to roll out and resolve Luke. And if you hit your damage, if you hit 5 damage, you can't block it. It just goes through for 5 once the Vibro Knife is on the board. And it becomes a real problem with the Vibro Knife being out there. Combining the cheating and the unblockable gets real crazy real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then the blue events that they got are absurd. Just absurd. Caution. Take Rey's terrible die. Give Luke 3 shields. Okay, good luck killing him. Destiny. Take Rey's terrible dice. Say it's 3. And put out a Force Throw for free. Okay, I'll do that. That sounds good.
Yep.
Guard. Roll Rey's terrible dice. Take the +2 and remove 2 dice. Okay. I see a theme here. High ground. We're already going super fast. Now I get to just pull one of your dice and do a damage. Okay, that sounds good. My ally is the Force. Oh, so I overwrote my Vibro Knife with another Vibro Knife. Rolled out Luke. I have 2 resources. I rolled a 3 and a 2. I'll play my ally as the Force on the 3, and instead of doing 5 damage, I do 8 damage and kill your guy. And then Swiftness. Swiftness, I feel like, is the card that flew under the radar. And this card is bonkers with Rey because it turns everything into a cheat. It's just crazy, Mike. It's just crazy.
Yep, that sounds pretty nuts.
You know what's really nuts, Mike? Is when you turn Force Speed into Force Speed into a cheat. And so then you play Force Speed on Rey, you get 2 actions. You roll out Rey, you hit your Force Speed, you trigger it, then you get 2 more actions. You roll out Luke, and just the world explodes.
Yep.
It's crazy, man. The deck is crazy. It goes really, really fast. It has reasonable amounts of removal. It's hard to kill with stuff like Caution. It's a really fast, scary deck. And I feel like this is going to be one of those early decks that really defines the meta, where it's like, okay, that's a cool deck you have. I really like your deck there. But does Luke Rey just slaughter it?
Yeah, right. I think time will have to tell if that is one of this, like if Rey whatever is the best deck. But I mean, at the beginning, like that all sounds insane. So it's definitely gonna be everywhere.
Yeah, I think so, and especially since it's not that hard to put together. Like you said, most people already have Luke and Rey. A lot of the cards are just uncommon events. You have the rare Vibro Knife, which isn't that hard to get. It's really Force Speed. And I feel like this Rey tier is going to push Force Speed up to insane price levels. Like, I think Force Speed could be like a $70 card, which is crazy because it's not that good. It's one of the more overrated cards in the set. And what I mean by that is it's a great card. Don't get me wrong. In the right spots, Force Speed is really good. But it's not quite as good as people think it is. But it's going to be very expensive at the start because of the Rey tier.
Yeah. I can definitely see that happening.
So you haven't really played at all with Spirit of Rebellion, am I correct here?
Yeah, I've been kind of sticking my head in the sand and pretending that it doesn't exist until after Worlds.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm in a weird spot where I'm really mixed because since I don't have any I got my 7 packs.
Yeah.
Just all garbage. So it's worthless. It's like I don't have Spirit of Rebellion at all. And so I'm kind of like, I roll in the shops. I'm like, all right, who's got an Awakenings deck? And they're like, what?
Yep.
I have this really cool Spirit of Rebellion deck. I'm like, that's cool. That's great. I'm really happy for you. And that we can now have a competitive game. Awakenings by itself cannot stand up to Spirit of Rebellion. As you can see from this deck that only has 8 Awakenings cards in it. So it's been an interesting run for me as well.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what's your plan for getting product? You're going to be at Worlds. Are you just praying that you can pick up 5-6 boxes while you're there?
That's a lot of boxes, but yeah. I'm hoping to at least get a couple.
I say 5 or 6 because you got me at home going, Mike, come on, man, give me a box, please. I'll do anything.
If they have enough, then I probably will bring some back for some folks over here. But I mean that's like I'm excited about the set, but I think that being in this like mode of just like not participating in it, I'm still hyped for it, but I'm not like salivating to get my hands on it. I don't really know why, but like I have some pre-ordered here, so it's like I don't feel too bad about about the prospect of getting product.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing for you also is you're going to miss the first weekend when it's available, right? When we're all excited and everyone's trying to get that box, you're going to be gone anyway. And so that if it is only 2 weeks behind, it's not that much time if you already missed the first weekend. It's where it's going to be really painful is for there's a May 4th game night kit. It's going to be really fun for people who have products.
Right.
For people who don't, it's gonna be like, all right, I got my Vader Raider Awakenings deck. It's like fast hands you and do this and do that. And you're like, wait, I don't know what happened. How did I lose all my games tonight? I thought I was good at this game.
Yep.
Yes, it's gonna be very interesting. We'll have to see how bad the shortage is going to be. And remember, it's coming. Okay, calm yourself. I know it's gonna be frustrating. It's gonna be frustrating. Don't get me wrong there. I'm not saying it won't be, but be calm. Be calm. It's coming. Another card. There's so many cool cards in Spirit of Rebellion that I think are going to define the meta. We talked about Planetary Uprising before, but Planetary Uprising in one of these fast Poe decks is absolutely crazy. So what happens is if you get your battlefield up, once you get about mid-game, you can just go, first action, I will claim the battlefield. I'll roll Poe out, hopefully cheating him out with Rey or with hit and run. And so the second half of my first action is I just claim the battlefield and do like 4 from this card and then 2 more, maybe 4 more from my 2 Planetary Uprisings. And that is insane. Once you get that online, it's really hard for your opponent to do anything because their only other choice is to just not roll and claim.
Right.
You can't win doing that, right?
Yeah,
If you don't have Planetary Uprising, you can't just claim and think you're going to win.
That sounds scary. That sounds really scary. That's what, like 7 damage off of a Mind Probe with just 1 Planetary Uprising, 9 damage with 2.
Yeah, and I've done this. I was doing it with Poe Maz, which it's funny because I feel like Poe Rey is faster. And then Poe Maz is more consistent because what I like to do is put Maz's goggles on Maz, and then when I roll Maz out, I have 3 dice with 2 focus on them. So it's almost a given that I can roll Poe out, he whiffs, whatever. I roll Maz out, and then I'm able to go ahead and turn one of those into a special and immediately resolve it.
Yeah.
And so what that means is, in 3 actions, I get to resolve both of Poe's dice, right? First action, roll Poe out. Second action, roll Maz, resolve one of Poe's specials. Third action, claim, turns over. I've done 7 damage plus however many Planetary Uprisings I have.
That sounds super powerful.
It is. It really is. The problem with the deck that I found is, of course, if you claim early, that's great. But there's a problem that your opponent just goes, okay, cool. It's time. It's on.
Yep.
Those games, man, they were all like 3-turn games. I either won or lost in 3 turns. Because the meta is really fast right now. And it was kind of crazy. I'm like, okay, cool. I actually can't believe I lost. Like, I lost in 3 turns. I lost Poe and Maz in 3 turns.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a crazy start with this Rey tier. I'm really, really hoping that we find a way to get away from it and it doesn't dominate the game for a long time. One more thing I'll talk about real quick that I'm investigating are 2 cards. Let's see, how do I bring these up easiest? Here we go. 2 cards that I'm looking at are, what are the name of them? Salvage Yard and Imperial. Do you happen to remember the name of that card?
What does it do?
It's the one where when you roll a disrupt.
Yeah, an Imperial Inspection.
Yes, Imperial Inspection. Thank you. So between those 2 cards, Salvage Yard lets you, when you roll a resource, you have to steal their resource. Not steal it, but get rid of it. And then the other one lets you bounce an upgrade. So I'm building decks with both of those in it. So it's got those 4 supports. And, you know, hopefully by turn 2, you have 2 to 3 of them out. And especially if you have somebody like an elite Unkar Plut in there, that's 2 disrupts, 2 resources. So just his dice have a really good chance of bouncing, you know, like 2 upgrades to their hand and taking both of their resources.
Yeah.
Just off of his initial roll. And that's pretty crazy. So I built a Unkar FN Kylo Ren deck, which is kind of terrible. But it's based around this premise. And so that's sort of the control shell I'm starting with is can I build a deck that both takes away all of your resources and bounces your upgrades, which you can't play because you don't have resources, and tries to get you to play a kind of base game, right? Like, this is all you have. You have these dice. Can you do enough to kill me? And, of course, I have removal. And then the question is, coming back to me, now how do I kill you? Right? Because I've got Unkar in the deck, so that's already a dude that's not killing you. So what is the answer? One of the reasons why I like FN so much is because for only 10, you get a really good character that does a ton of damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that ability is awesome.
Yeah, so it's funny. I played this deck one time. It did really well. It did amazingly well, except for I got milled.
Ooh.
Yeah, he wasn't really a hardcore mill deck, and I was going to win on the next turn, and he had one roll, right? Like, I had emptied his hand. He only had one card. I took away his resources, and he had Dooku's 2 dice that were not showing Disrupt, and he had no resources. So he had to have this perfect roll where it was like he had to roll a discard, he had to roll a resource, and he had to roll another discard on his Force Choke, and he did, to be able to mill me out when I would have killed him next turn. So that was really frustrating, but the deck definitely accomplished what it wanted to. He was only able to kill FN. Unkar and Kylo were totally fine. The problem for me is FN never rolls damage. Like, for everyone else, you put an upgrade on FN, you roll, and you do 2 or 3 damage every time. For me, it's a blank nearly every time.
All the time.
And it makes it hard to kill people, actually. It really does, Mike, when you can't ever do any damage.
That's weird. I don't really know why, but, you know.
And the weapons are so good with Salvage Yard because most of them have resources, right? So you get that free roll off of FN, and then you can roll Unkar if it missed, and you just have all of these different options. So I don't really know. Is the answer to go Crime Lord and really try to exploit Unkar? I feel like if you have a 2 dice Unkar and a Crime Lord, Unkar's dead, right? He's just dead. So I'm trying to figure out a way to, like, give a real target for them to go for, and so I'm very early in this process, but I feel like that combination of Imperial Inspection and Salvage Yard is probably where that control shell is going to be at.
Yeah, I like that idea.
All right, so that's my look this week at Spirit of Rebellion. It's, like I said, it's starting to come into focus a little bit. I feel like I personally am very far away, and I feel like pretty much everyone's pretty far away. There's stuff floating around, but like I said, I don't think any of it's all that great. Especially when I look at all these Krennic lists. What do you think of Krennic? Is he viable?
I don't know. He's so expensive.
Yeah.
I don't.
So expensive. He doesn't do anything well, Mike. He's like this jack of all trades. That if you just looked at his dice, you'd be like, yeah, he's pretty good. What is he, like 14, 18, 13, 17? He's like emo Vader level?
Yeah.
No, he's 15, 19. You're like, what? 15, 19? What are you insane?
Yeah, I mean, it's that Death Trooper die they get to bring in, but the problem with that, in my opinion, is I could be wrong. I haven't looked at his card in a while, but does he only have 1 damage side?
He does, and that's the whole problem. If he had a 2 and a 2, and then the Death Trooper die, it could be a damage deck. But
yeah, it would be a completely different deck.
You can't make a damage deck with a 19 cost dude that has 1 damage side. That's not a damage deck, Mike.
I mean, like, let's say that you pair him with Balatik. Like, all you have to do is kill Balatik, and then, like, they're not really dealing that much damage each turn.
No, they're really not. And pairing him with Balatik doesn't even give you an elite Balatik, right? Isn't Balatik 12?
No, he's 8/11.
He's 8/11. Why was I thinking he was 9/12? Okay, that's a big difference. Okay, so he's 8/11. Yeah, you're right. Yes, that's what people are talking about, the 5-die Krennic deck.
Right.
I just think that's not and Bala's dice suck also. Like,
yeah, they do.
To me, that's the worst deck ever. It's like, I built Krennic Bala. 4 terrible dice and 1 cool one that I sometimes get. Like,
I mean, it's funny. It's funny that the cool one is the Death Trooper die.
Right. I love Krennic's die. I love him in a more like a really, really slow meta. I think his die is really cool.
Yeah.
But that's not what we had with Destiny. That's not what we had in Awakenings, and I predict that is not what we'll have here. And if you're trying to mill, you can do way better than 19 because the Death Trooper doesn't help at all.
You're right. Death Trooper doesn't help at all. He only has, one. I mean, it's two discard, but like if you compare him to Jabba, Jabba's got those two focus to be able to get you there.
Yeah, I think Jabba is light years better than Krennic, and he is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and he's got that. You get to roll one of your yellow dice. There's nothing worse than when your opponent rolls Jabba, gets the 2 discard and a blank, re-rolls the blank, hits another 2 discard. Like,
yeah,
that's the worst feeling in the world.
Feels so bad.
There's nothing worse than that. You're like, well, there's my hand. Cool. Thanks, man.
Yep.
That was great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm not sold on Krennic. And with that, that's been most of the control decks that I've seen. So I just want to put this out here to everybody. What a lot of people have said is, well, I want to play Imperial Inspection, and Krennic's really the only red guy that has good disrupt. Okay. It doesn't say red disrupt.
Right.
I've been building almost all of my Imperial Inspection decks without Krennic because he's terrible.
Yeah.
And I've been instead using either FN for his only 10 cost, or even a Trooper. You just throw a Trooper in there for 7, you get 23 other points that can be anything, right? Maybe it's an elite Unkar and his amazing dice for Imperial Inspection. I don't know what you're doing. But the bottom line is, remember that. You don't have to have Krennic to build that deck. You can just do it with a Trooper.
Yeah, my first thought when I saw Imperial Inspection was to put it with Unkar and then a Stormtrooper and a Death Trooper for your damage. I have no idea if that's good or not, but that was kind of my. I mean, if you bring Elite Unkar, you got 4 sides on 2 dice that can get you there.
Yeah,
seems pretty good.
For me, I love having FN in those decks because he's such a target. It's like, all right, I got an Elite Unkar and a 1-die FN. They're like, yeah, that's cool. Keep your Elite Unkar. FN is dead. So that's kind of nice. And he's got 11 health, so he hangs around for a little while.
Yeah.
The problem is, once he's dead, how does that deck win?
So the interesting thing about a Death Trooper instead of 10 cost FN is that, I mean, if you're making money off of Unkar anyway, you can get some pretty sweet endless ranks off and bring the Death Trooper back.
I like that, actually. That's kind of interesting. I feel like, though, if you do the double die Unkar will be dead by turn.
Just gonna die so fast. Yeah, that's probably right.
And then it's just, I don't know if a Death Trooper
and a Stormtrooper can carry you. Yeah, I'm not sure about that either.
I don't know. And they might be able to. Maybe you get enough weapons on them with Unkar's ability. It just seems unlikely to me.
Yeah, it kind of pulls the deck in like too many directions potentially.
Yeah, I don't know. But, I mean, this is what I'm talking about, though. I'm kind of lost still on what the Spirit of Rebellion control deck is going to look like. I think there's one out there. I think it's based around Salvage Yard and Imperial Inspection, but I don't know what it is. So if you have the list, send it to me. I want to start playing Control. I'm ready to be playing Control lists. That's where my heart is at. Help me out. Help me play Control World. Give me a deck. All right, Mike. Each week we've been going over some lists, getting ready for Worlds, how to handle them, what's scary about them, and we've done most of the most common lists you're going to see. We've done Vader Raider, we've done Han Rey, we've done Poe Rey. I feel like there's only 2 lists that are still left. The first one is Jango whatever, but I really feel like people know how to handle Jango. And so the list that I think that's flying under the radar a little bit still, not totally under the radar, of course. People know it's good, but it's not quite as well known as the other decks, is EPhasma Bala Trooper. And I consider Mike to be one of the better players with this deck. I mean, he's been playing it a lot lately. I know I've been playing it a lot lately, so hopefully we'll have some good insight for you.
Yeah.
So, Mike, let's start here. How would you define Phasma Bala Trooper? If you had to categorize it, what type of deck is it?
Oh man, I've never liked these categories, but I think that if I had
You're the
to,
worst, Mike.
I know. It can be kind of mid-rangey where it'll like want to win, kind of like right before one of its characters dies, or like get into a winning position, like right
Yeah.
before one of its characters dies, or like
I love to win
round
before
two,
any of my
three,
characters die,
four.
Mike. That's always my goal.
Yeah, right. um,
Which,
yeah,
by the way, I pulled off last night.
yep.
It wasn't against you, but
Yep,
I did
yep.
it.
I watched that game.
How much damage did I take in that game? Was it like 2 damage total in the whole game?
I think so.
It included, by the way, my opponent playing a dodge on my 1 damage that would not have done anything.
Yeah, that game was an outlier.
Yeah, that was a rough game. It was a rough game.
Yeah.
All right, how I describe this deck is a very consistent deck. That's how I've described it. I've actually had people respond to my tier list where I said I think it's tier 1, and they've said it's not tier 1, Tiny, because it is consistent, but it doesn't do enough damage. And I disagree with that. Do you, Mike? I feel like it can burst
Yeah,
a lot of
I,
damage.
I totally disagree with that. I mean, it's still like, okay, if you compare it to a deck that people say does a lot of damage, like let's say Vader Raider. Like Vader Raider turn 1 on its character dice can deal 9 damage. Phasma Bala Trooper on turn 1 with its character dice can deal 8 damage. Like, it's not that much of a difference. Like, yes, it's spread out, but that just means that like single target removal hurts less. So,
Yep, I agree with that. I think, and that's one of the things I really like about the deck. Like I love Kylo Dooku. It's my favorite deck to play, but it doesn't have enough burst, which is fine against a lot of decks. But when you play against, say, a Han Rey, if you can't do a lot of burst damage, it's very hard to actually win. And since Han Rey is really moving more and more into one of the top, if not the top meta deck with people winning major events with it, your deck better be able to burst. And I feel like Phasma Bala Trooper can.
yeah. Yeah, with cards like All In or Tactical Mastery, it and all the focus that it produces, it definitely has the potential to kind of hit your opponent from out of nowhere.
Yeah. So let's start there. So that's one of the things you really need to worry about, isn't it, Mike? That if they have a resource, they can do some crazy stuff to you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, depending on what upgrades the deck decides to run, like you can all in for like 3 focus and change 3 of your dice, and you already have like a damage or 2 showing, and all of a sudden deal like 9, 10, or more.
Yep. You can do things like if you have 2, you can go Tactical Mastery, roll out Rey with 3 upgrades, and then play all in.
Phasma?
Just focus them all to good sides and just win.
Yep.
And you have to be so aware of this that for instance, last night I was playing Han Rey, and I had Han, and I could have rolled out with an extra gun, or I could overwrite with a second chance. And I was like, well, he's got a resource. I don't know what he could do. Like he's already played a Tactical Mastery, but what if he plays another one? I could just die, and so I had to go ahead and overwrite with a second chance, even though it was a suboptimal play. It lost me damage. I hated making the play, but I felt like I had to because I had to play around the options that you had available.
Yeah. That's for sure. I think that those plays are definitely the ones that people need to be aware of, because it can just like you don't expect it from that deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the big problems with playing against that deck, is it kind of lulls you into, I'm just a slow deck. I got 3 characters. They're each doing a little bit of damage. You're all right. You're all right. You're not all right. You guys did.
Yep.
Out of nowhere. There's no fight dirties, but I don't need fight dirty with this deck.
No, you don't.
All right, so here's a question. This is one of the tough things. When you're playing against it, who do you go for first? Do you go for Phasma, who's the scariest person? She's probably going to end up with 3 upgrades if you let her. Her dice are amazing. Do you go for Bala, whose dice are not that great? There's only 1 of them. Or the Trooper, who you really don't want to have to go for. Who do you usually find yourself going for?
I still have sort of questions about this. I think it largely depends on where they're putting their upgrades.
Yeah.
But I would say that more often than not, I try to take the trooper out first because I know that they're just going to be messing with my plan anyway, and like pretty much turning off Guardian is good, but
Yeah.
then it if you do that and you commit to that, and then Bala gets scary, like
Yeah.
it's hard. If I was playing a 3 character deck, I'm 90% sure I would go for Bala every time because it's pretty easy for Phasma Ball Trooper to get those reactivations.
So you're saying if you have Bala in your
Like
deck, you're
yeah,
gonna go
yeah.
for that.
If you have Bala in your deck, or if you have another three
Oh,
character list that doesn't
yeah.
exist, like if Bala can prey on your deck,
Yes, gotcha.
I would say kill him first, if possible.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, in a 2 character deck, I think he is a bit less scary. He can go off once, and it's probably going to be at a later point in the game because your 2 characters theoretically have higher health, like individually. But it's a tricky one. I think that's all. It's one of the things that makes the deck a bit scarier. Like that's definitely one of the benefits of the deck is that you can adjust your strategy to fit whatever situation you find yourself in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like it's one of the reasons why this deck is so good is because you have to play better against it. You can't just have a plan going in, right? Where it's like, all right, I'm killing Vader. I don't care what they do. I'm killing Vader. When he's dead, I'll kill the Raider. This is very much, well, what is my opponent telling me, right? Like,
Yeah.
who are they putting the upgrades on? How much can my deck burst? Also, if it can't burst at all, you just got to kill that trooper because he's going to make it impossible to kill anybody. Now, if you do roll 8 on turn 1, and now you have the option of going for Phasma first, and so then you're really looking at the board like, okay, I could just kill Bala, or I could put a huge hurt on Phasma. Like, what does my deck have more problems with? Like you said, is one of the characters like Bala a real issue for your deck? Who are they putting the upgrades on? And you know what makes it way worse, Mike? Is when they get the redeploy upgrades early.
Yeah.
And then it just screws up all your plans because you're like, all right, they're upgrading Bala. I should kill him. Oh, God, they're all redeploy. Oh, no, it doesn't help at all.
When I'm faced with a situation where my opponent just has loaded up one of the characters with redeploy, I almost never actually attack that character until the last moment.
Yeah,
because you don't do anything. Like you get rid of like one die, like 1 or 2 dice maybe. Like
yeah, but the problem is
worth it. But
if it's Bala, and then they activate him twice because he only has 4 dice now because you left him alone because you didn't want to screw with him, and you just lose.
Yeah. It's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
And that's why I like playing the deck.
Exactly. The same here. I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on your opponents. And I'm not going to World, so I'll reveal some tricks. Some stuff I like to do is whatever character I don't want them to go for. I'll put out the lure for it. Like, let's say I put a redeploy on Bala, and I know in this matchup they need to kill the trooper first because they can't burst enough, right? I'll say like, oh man, can't believe, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I shouldn't have put such a big target on Bala. I mean, I knew you were going to kill him anyway, and now I just gave you more reason to kill him, right? Like a little table talk, right? So I don't know. I have a lot of fun with that. So be careful. Don't let your opponent table talk you into doing things you don't want to do. If you ever play John Bruno, our good friend and fellow co-host, that dude is the master table talker. Wear earmuffs because you never know what he'll say things that are misleading, and then he'll realize you're on to him, and so then he'll say something accurate followed by 2 misleading statements in the same sentence, and it's just easier to put on earmuffs and ignore the guy.
He does it in such a friendly way too that you don't notice that he's doing it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. It's just casual conversation, right? Like he's just helping you out a little bit and totally screwing you over while you think he's being helpful. Oh man, yeah. So let's see. What are some other issues with the deck? I think one is Commanding Presence. Commanding Presence is one of these cards that's kind of hard to get out, and it costs a lot. But boy, once it hits the table, Mike, that card is a really difficult card to deal with.
Yeah, that card's awesome. I like it a lot. Not everybody plays it in their version, but it gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of one of it. I know some people like two of it, which I think helps in some matchups, but it's so expensive. But I guess the point is, one way to really hamper this deck is to take their resources. If they can't get out a bunch of early upgrades and they can't get out that commanding presence ever, it's very difficult for them to do a lot with just those base dice. They're not bad dice, but they're not super scary.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think that uh, playing against this, especially with another kind of mid-rangey like upgrade focused deck, really comes down to who ends up playing more upgrades, and who gets better value out of their resources. Um, I think that that's definitely one of the keys. If you can, like, if you're playing Han Ray and you hold up last year Ray and then roll Han in and disrupt them for two, like on the opening turn, like you have a pretty strong shot at winning.
Yeah, that's for sure. Slow them down as much as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Some other cards to be aware of are sort of just the regular cards you need to be aware of if you're used to playing against these range decks with yellow in them. It's going to have backup muscle. It's going to have electroshocks. It's going to have he doesn't like yous. It's probably going to have flanks because it's a 3-character deck. So you need to be aware that they're probably going to have removal. Like, if they have resources or dice on the board that he doesn't like you, don't do crazy greedy things. They're probably just waiting for you to do something foolish, and then they're going to pull off a die and completely blow you out. So don't let them do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really easy to play flank in that deck too because you're pretty much leaving the Stormtrooper ready until he has something that he needs to Guardian.
Yeah, and that Guardian Trooper, he's so annoying. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. What else do we want to say about this deck? I feel like it's so similar to something like Jango Bala Trooper that most of the lessons you've learned from playing against range decks hold true still. I guess one big one, and this is a problem I often run into against this deck, because it's able to get so many dice, so many upgrades and dice out fairly early, it becomes really tricky if you only have a deflect in your hand. And they're showing, say, a 1 damage from one of their guns and a +3 from a jetpack in 5 non-damage dice. And they have 3 cards for rerolls. I'll often deflect the 3 because I know, sure, I can deflect that one and it looks great for now. They're gonna hit another gun, am I right?
Oh yeah, I mean, the chances of them hitting that base damage anyway is really high.
Yeah, I mean, you have Phasma's focus, you have her guns. I mean, you really need to play around the fact that they're going to hit some damage. You can't be upset when they hit damage. Your plans all have to work around that. Like, okay, I can shield up a guy. Who am I shielding up here? And it's not because they're showing 3 damage. It's because they're really probably going to get 7. So how am I playing around the actual 7 that's coming, not just the 3 that I immediately see?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mike, are there any other cards that you think you need to be especially worried about, or tips generally you want to give about the deck?
I think I don't think very many people are playing dug in their lists, so I probably wouldn't worry too much about coming across that.
I had 2, and the deck just doesn't claim that much.
Yeah, it's just really like it's a slow deck, or at least in the early turns when you still have 3 of your characters, it's pretty slow.
Yeah.
I mean, like
2 to 1 to 0.
Yeah. Like you just don't get it off that often when you have it. So
not worth it.
Yeah, don't be too worried about that in this list, which is definitely a difference from like one of the Django versions.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, hopefully you will be ready to play against Phasma Bala Trooper. How much do you think we'll see it at Worlds, Mike?
I don't know. Maybe 20%. That's a completely wild guess, but I think it's a strong choice. I definitely think people will see it.
Yeah, I feel like It could be the real wild card of the tournament. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is, I think a lot of people are going to play Vader Raider. I don't think a Vader Raider will win the tournament, but I think a lot of people will play it. Poe Rey is having a lot of success lately. I think tons of people are going to flock to it. Han Rey has had crazy amounts of success. And if you're good with that deck, you just get a lot of auto wins because people have no clue how to handle second chance. And so I feel like this deck then is almost like the fourth deck, but then it's in the same pot with all the Django decks. And I think most people look at Django and just go, I could have Django or Phasma. That's an easy choice. I'll take Django, please.
Right.
So I'm wondering if Phasma might actually be 10%, 5% of the meta. And if it is, for anyone who is on it, it gives you such a leg up because people really don't know how to handle it as well. And it looks so much like a Django deck that I think a lot of people try to just straight apply what they've learned about Django decks to Phasma decks, and it doesn't always quite work the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I could see that.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I expect to see more Django than I see this. So.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have you on again before Worlds, Mike. So I'm going to ask you for your predictions. What deck do you think will win Worlds?
Ooh.
This is your chance to be like, the deck that I am playing because I'm going to win Worlds.
You said it, not me. I think that... All right, I don't know what deck will win, but I think the top four will be a Poe Rey deck, a Han Rey deck, a Phasma deck, and maybe a Django Bala Trooper deck. Or maybe even like a Jabba Dooku deck, like Dark Horse deck. I don't know.
Yeah. I think the top four is going to be a Han Rey, maybe two, a Django deck, and a Dark Horse deck.
Yeah.
That's what I think the top four is going to be. And the reason I don't pick Phasma is because I don't think enough people are going to play it to get it there, right? I mean, you have to get lucky to win Worlds. That's really crucial. You have to be good. You have to be very good. But you also have to be lucky. And if there's only a couple people playing the deck, it's unlikely that they will get lucky enough to make it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my predictions. It's going to be interesting. I really think there's a Dark Horse deck that's going to pop up. Whether that be, like you said, some Mill deck, some Crime Lord deck, maybe someone really gets a lot of mileage out of the Night Sister Veers builds. Like, there's a whole bunch of weird builds running around that are all good. I mean, Qui-Gon Rey's good. Maybe that just pops up and has a lucky run and has the right matchups and just gets all the way to the top four. I don't know. I think there'll be a Dark Horse deck in it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what that ends up being.
Yeah,
and I hope that there is. It'll be a more exciting Worlds.
Yeah. And especially, I really love that this Worlds doesn't have Spirit of Rebellion, because it really is the cap to Awakenings, right? It's like, this is it. Yeah. This is the last event that will be Awakenings only, and so whatever Dark Horse deck pops up, that's it. It's just the champion of Awakenings, and there's no like after the fact. Well, how does it really do? Did it just get lucky? It doesn't matter. The meta's gone. It won that meta. So that'll be fascinating.
Yeah, it'll be really cool to see.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up the show. If you don't know, we're on iTunes. We're on all the podcast sites. Go to iTunes, leave us a nice review. It helps people when they're searching for the episode. And I'd like to thank Mike so much from swdestiny.com. Good luck at Worlds, Mike. I'll be rooting for you. And is there anything you want to plug, or where can people find you on the internet?
Thank you. I appreciate you having me back on again. So you guys can check out, obviously, swdestiny.com, and check out, some of the cool stuff we have going on. We actually right now are in the middle of a cool, like, pre-Worlds series, which kind of looks in depth at some of the top decks in the Awakenings meta, written by John Magnuson, and they're just like fantastic. They're a bit long, so definitely like sit down and dive into it when you have the time. But it's just like very, very deep looks at some of the key decks. So take a look at that, and then you can find me on Discord. At my username is Rebel Spy on there, and then all the social media stuff for swdestiny.com. You can find me there too.
I love how you're Rebel Spy and you're the spoiler guy. Like you're sneaking into their headquarters. Like,
Oh God,
I got the
that,
spies.
to be clear, that is not happening.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to move to Minnesota just so you can do that.
Yeah,
I'll be the lookout guy, and you'll be the guy who goes and gets everything. All right. Well, you can find me all over as Tiny Grimes. I'm Tiny Grimes Games on Twitter. I've been streaming some SOR decks at Twitch Tiny Grimes. My YouTube is Tiny Grimes, so just come on by. Patreon Tiny Grimes, whatever Tiny Grimes. And I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week.